Hey, I'm Nathan with Blue Oak. Today we're planting cherry trees, and I wanted to take this opportunity to show you how these have come in the container and a serious error that they all have that we've had to fix today. So we're going to start by just kind of cutting this open. This is an educational video for those of you who want to plant your own trees. It also kind of showcases one of the services that we offer. But anyway, you can see that this tree is totally, you don't see any buttress roots coming out of it, right? So remember this spot right here. I can't even get through this with my hands. Once I start to air spade it, you'll see how buried this root collar has been and all the encircling roots that are forming around it because it's been grown in the container. So if we were to bury it like this, plant it like this, that would be horrible. As the tree got older, it would get choked out by its own roots. So, and that's why a lot of these trees do die very quickly. Before I air spade it, I'm gonna carefully move the root ball. I'm not yanking it by its trunk, by its stem. All right, get that out of there. Now, what you should do is try to pull these out by hand. If they don't come out by hand, then you can actually cut slits in them with a knife, but you want to do it radially, like that, okay? I'll show you more of that in a second. We're gonna air spade this a bit.
For this part of the video, there were gunshots by the neighbors in the background, and it was really distracting, so I just have this voiceover. But you can see the roots of this tree. Once we've air spaded the root ball, the roots are just like a giant bird's nest, and we're watering them to keep them moist. But what I was explaining was that the roots were encircling the tree, and if we were to simply stick that root ball into the ground the way it came in that container, those roots would grow, and as they grew, they would encircle the trunk and choke it out and kill it. Because we were able to correct this issue while the trees were young, we're giving them the best chance of thriving in the site that they're being planted in.
All right, I'm just pruning some of the ones that are like gonna get dried out. Now, the air spade is great because it can kind of pull this soil out without really tearing up the roots bad. Like I said, you got to use a knife and kind of cut them a little bit to pull them out. We want them to grow out and away from the root flare. I actually really like this tree, the way that it's growing. I like it. Jack is mixing up our soil mixture. We're going to rake back some of the natural dirt into here. This soil is really bad clay, really compacts easily. Alright, so this gravel is it claims that it's gonna reduce the soil compaction over time or prevent more bad soil compaction. It also should help with just creating those pockets of air in the soil particles for moisture and air and that sort of stuff, drainage, those sorts of things. But it's definitely not a necessary addition to every planting site. All right, cool. So he's mixing the rest of that into there. I'm going to go ahead and, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and rake some of this natural soil back in. I think we can cut the compressor actually. Now we don't want to put too much of this in here because we still have to add our nutrient enriched soil. We're not putting too much of this in here. something that's really important is to not bury these trees too deep. That is the probably the number one common mistake, is trees being planted too deep. All right. Notice that our planting hole is double the size of the root ball, if not triple. It should be triple. That's what it should be, but the client did not have enough dirt on hand and didn't want to pay for any extra dirt to make the holes bigger. And on top of that, this soil is so compacted that we're not complaining that we don't have to dig out as the bigger holes. But ideally 3 times the width, but not the depth. You do not want to go too deep. You want this root flare to be above ground. Okay? And all these roots that are going to stick up, that aren't going to get under the soil, if I can't get them to go down, then I'm going to have to prune them. Okay, we like to keep these trees really moist from start to finish of this planting process, because they are going through some serious shock to have all their roots exposed, to have all their roots pulled out. These trees were in containers, they were in the shade. Now they're in the open sun. So it's quite a shock. You've got to keep them watered the whole process. And then after they've been established, once you've gotten them in the ground, you still got to water them at least 3 times a week for the growing season in the summer. Once they start to get established, you don't have to water them as much. All right, last step is mulch. Now mulch is really good for the trees. There's a ton of benefits to mulch. They are an insulator against extreme temperatures. They are a moisture retainer in extremely dry weather. They are a physical barrier against soil compaction and lawnmowers on the roots and those sorts of things. And they are an organic layer enhancer. So they are very good for trees, but you don't want to mulch too thick and not too far up the stem. Okay, do not notice how we left the mulch ring off the root flare. And we're not compacting this soil by stomping around it to try to keep the tree in place. We're going to use stakes and little guy wires for that. For the first season, newly transplanted trees should be supported. After that, the supports should probably be taken off so that they don't become dependent on those supports. But at the beginning, we're not compacting this soil, because that wouldn't be good for the root development. So we do need to stake them. And that's it.